The 2025 Formula One season has been nothing short of cinematic, filled with rivalries, mind games, and moments that make you question who's truly in control. But few stories have captured the imagination quite like the rise of Oscar Piastri, the calm, analytical Australian who dared to take on Lando Norris in equal machinery. For months, he stood tall, leading the championship while the paddock whispered, could Piastri actually beat McLaren's golden boy? Yet in Mexico, that narrative shattered. What unfolded under the high-altitude chaos of Mexico City wasn't just a dip in performance, it was a humiliation. From holding a 34-point lead to now facing the real possibility of losing the title lead overnight, Piastri's campaign is spiraling. 7th in qualifying, struggling for pace, radio silence after a gutting result. The numbers alone don't tell the story, but the silence did. Something's not adding up at McLaren, and today, we're going to peel back the layers to find out exactly what went wrong and whether Piastri's downfall is as simple as a lack of grip or something much darker. For 6 months, Oscar Piastri was the calm storm at the top of Formula One, clinical, unflappable, and consistent. He had led the championship since April, proving that McLaren's young duo could go head-to-head with Red Bull and Ferrari. But at the Mexico Grand Prix, that calm exterior cracked. What unfolded wasn't just a poor qualifying, it was a nightmare that shook his championship campaign to its core. 6/10 off his teammate, 7th on the grid, and visibly confused about what went wrong. The gap between Piastri and Norris wasn't supposed to exist. Yet in Mexico, it was undeniable. Lando Norris didn't just out-qualify him, he annihilated him. His pole position lap, a blistering 1 minute 15.586 seconds, was nearly perfect, leaving even Norris in disbelief. I don't know how I did that, he admitted. The gap over 6/10 was the largest between the two McLaren drivers all season. For Piastri, who had spent most of the year qualifying in the top 3, that's not just a bad session, that's an existential crisis. How did the driver who once looked like McLaren's title spearhead suddenly lose all grip, confidence, and pace within just a few races? Andrea Stella, McLaren's team principal, offered a technical explanation. It's more difficult for Oscar to use the car when the conditions are sliding. Mexico's thin air, dusty surface, and unpredictable grip made it a nightmare for precision-based drivers. Norris, more aggressive on entry and better at adapting to unstable rear ends, thrived. But Stella's words carried a deeper undertone. Piastri wasn't just struggling, he was lost. The car wasn't giving him what he needed, and McLaren didn't yet know why. Actually, Piastri was set to start from P8, but his only bonus was moving up to P7 due to Carlos Sainz's grid penalty. Still, it was a hammer blow to Piastri's title hopes. The Aussie now faced the very real probability that Norris would take the championship lead heading into the final races of the year. Then came the whispers. Piastri's side of the garage reportedly noted inconsistencies in power delivery, subtle differences in throttle response that made the MCL 39 unpredictable out of slow corners. That's where Norris built his time-advantage traction zones. Coincidence? Possibly, but it's hard to ignore that this was the second consecutive weekend where Piastri's pace disappeared without explanation. He's been slower in every sector, every practice session, with no clear technical fault. The question many fans started asking was uncomfortable. Is McLaren unintentionally or perhaps strategically tilting toward Lando Norris? It wouldn't be the first time in Formula One that a team subtly prioritized one driver in a title fight. Not sabotage in the literal sense, but a shift of energy, attention, and focus toward the driver they believe has the best shot at delivering the title, or in this case, the biggest marketing impact. McLaren's identity has long been tied to Norris, the fan favorite, the British star, the long-term project. Piastri, as brilliant as he is, remains the challenger. And when two drivers are fighting for the same prize under one roof, history shows the balance rarely stays even. Still, facts matter, and the facts suggest Norris has simply been on another level lately. 5 poles this season, relentless pace, and growing confidence that radiates through the paddock. He's in sync with the car. His feedback shapes the setup direction, and as that development path continues, it's possible the car's evolving characteristics now suit him more than Piastri. That's the silent killer in modern F1. Cars evolve constantly, and small design tweaks can shift handling balance in ways that favor one driving style over another. For Piastri, whose style depends on high rotation and rear stability, Mexico's conditions were brutal. Sliding tires, unpredictable grip, and a car that refused to rotate cleanly. His lap looked cautious, too cautious. Analysts noticed how he braked earlier and avoided attacking the apexes as confidently as before. When you're 6/10ths behind, that hesitation is fatal. But it's also understandable when you don't trust the car. Confidence in Formula One is everything, and once it's gone, you can't fake it. The most telling moment came after qualifying, when Piastri was told over the radio that he finished P8, then reminded he'd start P7 because of Sainz's penalty. There was silence. No frustration, no excuses. Just silence, the sound of a driver who no longer knows what to say. After months of dominance, he suddenly looked isolated, both on and off the track. The same driver who stunned the world with his composure in his rookie season now looked like a man trying to understand his own downfall. Norris, meanwhile, was all smiles, confident, relaxed, unstoppable. His lap time stunned even the Ferraris and Red Bulls, marking McLaren's first pole in Mexico since 1990, a statement that McLaren, not Red Bull, is dictating qualifying sessions now. Yet for all of Norris's brilliance, one can't help but feel this moment has left the team internally divided. Because if Norris wins and Piastri fails to finish in the top 4, the championship lead changes hands, and the psychological power balance at McLaren changes forever. That's where the real story lies, the momentum shift. Every championship battle eventually becomes psychological. Once one driver starts doubting himself, every small issue feels bigger. Every tiny imbalance feels personal. Piastri's confidence is visibly shaken. Stella said, "He loses a few milliseconds in every corner." But to Piastri, those milliseconds must feel like a mile. He's losing to the one driver he can't afford to his teammate, and doing so while the world watches. So, was it sabotage? Probably not. But bias, even unconscious bias, might be creeping in. The faster driver gets more data, more attention, and more momentum, and as Norris continues to deliver, that bias will only grow stronger. For Piastri, the challenge now isn't just technical, it's emotional. He must rediscover the aggression, the self-belief, and the trust in his machinery that made him a champion in waiting in the first place. So what do you think? Was Piastri simply outdriven, or is there more going on beneath McLaren's polished surface? Could Norris' dominance really be down to skill alone, or are invisible hands shaping this title fight? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our latest videos.